We're going to go to the NBA. And, of course, Joel Embiid, the tremendous big man for the Philadelphia 76ers, who was having the best season of his career, a historically great season. He was on pace, Rob, to join Wilt Chamberlain as the only players to average 35 points, 10 rebounds, and 5 assists in the same season. And now, of course, he is undergoing surgery on his knee and not sure how long he'll be out. They said it's possible he could come back this season, late in the regular season for the playoffs or whatever, but it's also very possible we won't see him again until next season. But, Rob G., you say on social media it's ablaze with blame that they are laying at the foot of the NBA. Now, LeBron James blamed the media.
Game, right? Yes.
LeBron blamed the media, but you said most people on social media, maybe they were here, they heard us, Rob, when we said LeBron, it's not the media, it was the league,
right,
and the Sixers. If you want to blame
mostly
anybody,
Sixers,
I don't even know.
Chris.
Right, I don't know that you blame the league
because if he
it's
was
really
injured, I'm sorry, I don't care about no MVP. You won the MVP last year,
right?
Go ahead, Rob G.
No, you guys are absolutely right. And anytime there's a situation like this where there's a big star that is unavailable, the first response is always, well, who's to blame? Because nobody wants to admit, hey, it was just bad luck. Hey, maybe this guy's injury prone. There's got to be somebody to point the finger at to make the rest of the world feel better. And social media, even though it is a cesspool, they were really up in arms over the weekend when it was announced that Joel Embiid, you mentioned it, Chris, injured meniscus. He's going to have surgery. Depending on the type of the surgery, he's either going to be out 4 to 6 weeks in time for the playoffs, or he's out 4 to 6 months out for the season. And apparently, according to multiple reports, they're going to decide when they're in there what kind of surgery he's going to get, which makes me a little bit uneasy to begin with. But as you mentioned, people are saying on social media especially, there's a big uproar, a tidal wave of emotions coming out on Twitter, or X as it's now known, that the NBA and this new 65-game minimum rule is the reason why Joel Embiid decided to put himself out there knowing that his knee was hurt, because it's been reported now he's been dealing with knee issues basically since the start of the season. And because he didn't want to get left off the All-NBA ballot, he didn't want to get left off the MVP ballot. That's very important to him. And also, to a lesser extent, he didn't want to miss out on the money that could potentially come from him being an All-NBA player.
So he thought about that stuff, but not his health of his old overall health, Chris.
He decided to limp himself out there. We saw he didn't look good.
I remember that game. They said he wasn't playing, and then all of a sudden, right, he played that game.
Clearly hobbled, and social media believes that if the NBA did not have this rule in place, that Joel Embiid, even though he'd be banged up, he'd still be ready and available for the 76ers.
Rob, again, the blame is misplaced. The 65-game rule, I think, is good.
We talked about it.
It's very unfortunate what's happened to Joel Embiid. None of us want to see this. The dude is a fantastic player. My respect, I've always been like, especially earlier in his career, I've always said, dude, get on the block. Nobody can stop you down there. You're the biggest thing in the league. This year he was on the block more. But his mid-range game and his jump shot is so good that, he's tremendously effective with his jumper. And so I've come off that. I want to see him down there sometimes, but he's doing all right with that. But anyway, Rob, and I was talking to somebody in the league today about this, not a player, but, or someone who works in the league, an executive. Right. And they were saying this whole narrative about the players doing load management or creating load management is wrong, because it's not the players. And this is a person that's worked with several teams.
Okay.
And still works with a team. And he said, it is the teams. It is the doctors and the trainers for the teams that are telling players you need to sit out this many games, or you shouldn't play back-to-backs, or whatever you want to call it. And the players now, he admitted, the players began to take advantage of it, yes. Because we all, human natures, take the easier road. But it was the teams. And, Rob, we remember. We know where it started. Greg Popovich.
Greg Popovich.
San Antonio.
Is the author of
no
this.
doubt.
There's no doubt about it. And
he was they won so much, Rob, that it's a copycat league.
Yep.
And people began copying that.
Chris.
And so I'll say that, and I'll just say this, but Adam Silver, as the commissioner, Rob, had to get a hold of it because, as we said, there's so many games now where you're missing stars. And so the 65-game rule was a way to do it. Look, I don't think it ever would have got this bad under David Stern, real talk. And Adam could have just gone the route of, look, I'm going to talk to these teams and tell them this is nonsense.
Right.
Get your guys out on the court.
We're losing money.
We're right.
The networks are mad. When our new contract comes up, they're going to not want to do business with us.
Yep.
What are you doing?
It's going to hit you in the pocketbook, players. You making $50 million now, you're going to be making $40 million in your next deal.
100%.
But he went the other route, which was put in the 65 games. You know, I would prefer you don't have to have a rule. Right back in the day, you didn't need a rule because guys were trying to play 80 games. But this is not why he got hurt. Joel Embiid is injury prone. It's like saying Joe Burrow got hurt because he was playing while we know he wasn't 100%. No, Joe Burrow's injury prone.
He's been hurt in college.
Right. He hurt himself rolling out for a pass in practice.
No contact.
And so Embiid, and that's one reason he struggled in the playoffs so badly because he's generally banged up or hurt. And so that's my thing, right? It's not the league's fault. It's unfortunate, but Embiid is an injury-prone player. And here's the final thing I'll say, Rod, because I know I've been long-winded. If he doesn't play 65 games and other players do, he's not going to it's going to hurt him in the All-NBA voting anyway. It won't be a hard and fast rule. He probably still would make some team. But if he only plays 61 games and other players, Giannis, Jokic, maybe Jason Tatum, whoever would take his spot on that team, if they played 75, that's going to be taken into consideration. And so you might not make the first team All-NBA or be the MVP anyway. So, no, I think that it's really nobody to blame, Rob, except maybe the Sixers because they didn't put him on the injury list.
I'm going to blame the Sixers and Joel Embiid. Chris, nothing is more important than your health. Not another MVP, not an all-first-team, all-NBA. I'm sorry.
Not another $40 million.
Not another $40 million,
anyway.
yes.
I'm not saying it's irrelevant, but
Chris, if you're going to injure yourself
for
the future, what does that mean? It doesn't mean anything. It does. We people talk about all the time. Would you rather have a gazillion dollars and be confined in a wheelchair, Chris, or your health and some money? Do you know what I mean? Seriously.
Yep, I agree.
It just doesn't make any sense. Why would you put yourself out there when you know you're not good, you're not healthy? This can do damage to you. And that's why the medical staff and the Sixers, Chris, I blame too a little bit because you have to stop the players from hurting themselves, right? From themselves.
Right.
We know guys want to get back in the game. In football, you remember they used to have to take guys' helmets because they were going to go back in with a concussion or with some serious injury. And they'd have to hide his helmet so he couldn't go in. He couldn't grab his helmet and get back in. Man, I'm telling you, this should never happen. And the idea that you're worried about winning another MVP or something, I just cannot grasp it. It doesn't make sense on why you would put your health and your long-term career in jeopardy. And
Rob,
given your history, Chris, your history, your first 3 years in the league, all the time you missed, all the other stuff, you were on the sidelines. You remember what it was like when you couldn't play.
Yep.
Why would you do that to yourself?
And remember, Rob, I said last week before we knew what his injury was, Joel, forget about the MVP. Forget about the All-NBA team. and sit out as long as it takes for you to get ready for the playoffs. If it meant missing the next 20 games, Rob, get yourself ready for the playoffs because Joel, a second MVP is great. We're not going to poo-poo it. But if you were to win a second MVP and then flame out again in the playoffs, it's going to be ugly for you. You are going to get criticized. So what people want from you now is for you to maximize your potential in the playoffs. And Rob, if they lose to a better team, nobody's going to hold him accountable for that. And if he plays as well as he does in the regular season and they just lose to a deeper, better team, people will understand that.
Absolutely.
But they have been underachieving. And he's been a part of it. And so Joel has to understand it is about what you do in the playoffs going forward, my man. So, hopefully we see him this year, Rob. The dude is a great player. I mean, he is skilled. It's incredible.
There's no doubt about that, Chris. It's just about, can he stay healthy? And we're still waiting for that shining moment in the postseason. Like when he goes to the next level, he's not scoring 10 points under his average in the postseason like he did last year. That was disappointing. Remember, they won game one in Boston without him.
Right. And that's the thing, Rob. He usually misses a few games in the playoffs. And then when he comes and plays, he's only 80% or something like that. And so, get ready for the playoffs, Joel. Whenever you come back, understand that is what is most important for you at this stage of your career.